Now, Alfredo H asks, what place do fighting games have in the business of esports? So that's an interesting question because I've thought about that a lot, obviously. By the way, I just want to say I hate the term esports and I hate the term athletes. The reason being is not because I don't have respect for the players at all. I do. I do believe that it takes an incredible amount of focus, concentration, homework, work ethic, brain power, stamina, amazing things. It's not that at all. The reason I hate the terms esports and athletes is because when you say that to somebody who watches NFL or who watches ice hockey, I'm talking about American sports here because I'm in America, they immediately, in their mind, know what an athlete looks like and they know what sports look like. And then they see, like, you know, I don't know, some weedy dude like me, or, you know, some BlazBlue player. So I don't know why I picked an anime game. Whatever, right? Some weedy little guy, or some overweight guy, or whatever, right? Who you know doesn't look like an athlete, and so it's just a term which I don't think is helpful, because you're already setting them up to make jokes about this fighting game community. Let's call it what it is. Call it the fighting game community. Let's call it competitive gaming. Those are my thoughts on that. But I do think that its place in esports should be much higher. Much higher. And it boggles my mind why it isn't. When I say place in esports, what I really mean is popularity with the general public. It boggles my mind why it's not. I do get that people lose interest in playing games, often lose interest in playing games which are not team sports. People like being in teams because if they play badly and they win, they win. If they play badly and they lose, they all lose. It's kind of like they're all in it together, you know? So, but with fighting games, you have to be a very specific type of person to be able to, like, take that loss. And you have to be able to take that loss if you want to improve. And sometimes you may be in a room or a competition or a tournament where somebody will pop off in front of you, stand up and point at you and stick their finger in your face and say, you're free. It's never happened to me because I play at home most of the time. But, you know, it can happen in salty messages and what have you. Oh, no, it can't in this version because there are no messages. But we'll get onto that. That's one of my biggest gripes. That's why you got the attitude then. I can understand that, but, like, to watch, it should be one of the easiest things in the world to watch, right? And it might be just that it's easier for them to just go watch boxing. It's easier for them to go watch Ultimate Fighting, UFC, you know, or get hyped about real human beings who are putting, you know, their lives on the line. I don't know, but it's the thing about League of Legends, Dota, StarCraft, Call of Duty, CSGO, those things are huge. And I went to the CSGO event in Barclays Center in Brooklyn. It was huge. It was ridiculous. And the bizarre thing is, I actually think those things are quite hard to watch. Unless you understand League of Legends or Dota or StarCraft, you can't just watch them. Street Fighter, you can watch, right? There's all fighting games. There are two characters. There's one screen. Two characters, and they're punching each other. And there's 2 health bars. My mum can watch it. Anyone can watch it. It's so easy to watch. It's the easiest thing to watch. That's at the most basic level of understanding. Now, if you're invested in the characters, the game, or the players, that's all you need to know. You just want one person to win. That's it. So I don't know why it isn't more popular. Maybe we need to all do a better job of somehow helping people spectate, or making better storylines around the games or the players. I know Echo Fox is going to do a lot better job. It seems like they are invested in their players and want to do a better job of creating storylines around the players, as do Red Bull. And I think they're sort of getting there, Red Bull. They do some amazing stuff. And there was some of the more recent Battlegrounds events were really, really, really watchable. in a way, in such a different way, that hooked you in such a different way. You know, you want storylines about players. You want to know the history between players, like the fact that Xiao Hai has never beaten Knuckle wasn't something that we knew before the game or when the game was happening. Damn, I'm forgetting the actual match itself. I think it was the US Battleground, maybe. But we now know that because there was a Chris Hugh tweet, I believe, which actually said, you know, fun fact, Xiao Hai has never beaten Knuckle. Then Knuckle went to China, I believe, and beat Xiao Hai, you know, on his home turf, which is hype as hell. Just, you know, he's in his head. He can never, you know, he just can't beat him. You know, stories like that are great. Rivalries, stories, history, grudge matches. You know, Knuckle is actually pretty hype with the sunglasses on and off. They took that away, so now he does, you know, he does the teabagging or whatever, right? But it's not as cool as the glasses on, glasses off. That stuff makes things hype. We just need to work harder on the hype. We need to work harder on the storylines around the players. I actually think the game should have worked harder at creating an emotional connection with the game, an emotional connection with the characters. I think that kind of sucked. And I think now for Street Fighter V at least, I think what you need to do when you know, fighting games are kind of new to esports, Capcom, Pro Tour, all that sort of stuff. And I think you need to make a decision. Capcom need to make a decision between spectators and players. So do you want more people to play the game, or do you want more people to spectate the game? Because I can tell you right now, the NFL doesn't sit around saying, we're going to change the game to make it a little easier for people to play the game. That's not how it works, right, for them. They go, we're going to make this an incredible spectator sport. And, you know, I'm just using the NFL as an example because, again, I live in America and I know that on a Sunday I walk past any bar and there are men and women in there drinking, celebrating, watching sports, right? Do any of those guys play in there, in that bar? Those guys who are chugging their, like, you know, 10th beer? No. Did they? Maybe. Yeah, once. Street Fighter's the same thing. Did anyone play Street Fighter once? Probably, when they grew up. Did girls? Hell yeah. I've dated enough girls to know and talk about, yeah, I talk about Street Fighter on dates. It's in me. But, you know, girls always know, yeah, I played that when I was young and I played Chun-Li. Believe it or not. So the question arises, like, do you want to focus on attracting players, or do you want to focus on attracting spectators? Because I think there's an opportunity to actually say, we have this much marketing budget. What do we want to focus on? Ideally, you do both. Ideally, you create an amazing game with an amazing story. Believe it or not, I believe that you should have a story. I think the world is rich enough to have a story. I think the characters should have quirks. I think people are in love with characters for certain reasons. They look cool. Dan. We all love Dan because he's kind of like, you know, he's supposed to be the weakest, but he thinks he's the strongest, or he mouths off that he's the strongest. But actually he has this sad backstory where Sagat actually killed his father. You know, and his father was the guy who actually took out Sagat's eye. You know, crazy. You know, to me that's interesting. You know, but not everybody knows that, and to some people that means nothing. But to a lot of people, stories make the world go round. I'll say that a lot. Stories make the world go round. I work, you know, my previous life, my whole career has been in advertising. Every time we've ever talked about trying to get people to connect with brands, it's on an emotional level. Sometimes it feels very fake, but other times it feels very real. And it's like, that's the brand I want to be associated with because it says something about me. And it's the same with TV, stories, video games, whatever. Anything you want to be connected to, you want to be connected to on an emotional level. And you want to be connected to Street Fighter on an emotional level, and that's what should have happened. But it didn't happen. Not the game. So you can get connected to the players. And if you were to market to spectators, then you would have to find a way of connecting with them on an emotional level. The storylines would have to be, maybe like WWF. I don't know. That seems to be one of the directions that people like to go in, is WWF. But like K-Brad's very good at it, trying to hype things up, trying to create storylines. But the real storylines, the real ones, Xiao Hai has never beaten Knuckle-Doo. Knuckle-Doo is his demon. These two are constantly hitting the finals together. That's great. That's great stuff. I think that's great stuff. So I just think, Capcom need to reassess what they're doing with Street Fighter 5. I loved it. The marketing, I felt, was about 3 years ahead of the game. The tap into it, I don't know if you guys remember that. It showed the FGC. It showed people tapping into the game and the FGC in any way that they liked. I was just looking at the time there. Whether it be cosplay, whether it be collectibles. There was a collectibles guy. If you go and break that ad down, it's amazing. It has a guy who's got a whole collection of Street Fighter, and that's how he's invested in Street Fighter. And it's his doorway into esports. He'll watch esports because he knows all the characters, he knows all the game, he knows everything. You've got people who will turn up to tournaments to cosplay because they're connected to the characters in that way. That's how they want to express themselves. People who want to buy merchandise, people who love the music, want to remix the video gaming music. There are so many different avenues and doorways in. That's called holistic marketing, when you have the budget. But I kind of feel like Capcom are massively understaffed, massively underfunded. That's how it feels. Massively underfunded and massively under-resourced. And I feel like the business decision makers have probably said at this point, everything goes into Marvel vs. Capcom right now, because that's where we're going to pick up the casuals, and I'll talk about that. Okay, that was one hell of a rant. By the way, Ultra Street Fighter 2 is a good move. Pick up these kids when they're young, when they're playing on their Nintendo. Because I think that's kind of what happened, with Melee and with Smash in general. It's like these kids, they pick up these games, they start playing them, and they're good at them, and they don't stop. Street Fighter, by the way, was on the SNES. That's where I started with Street Fighter. So, good place to be. Ultra Street Fighter 2 is a good place to be. Mobile games is a good place to be. It's a shame Puzzle Spirits is such a mess. It's an unplayable game. I play it, but it's an unplayable game because it's basically pay to win. I just have a lot of patience. That game is such a fun puzzle game. My mum would play that game. My dad would play that game. They would find themselves a character to choose. You have to choose a character. And they would they would find some association with that character. And with that emotional connection, the next time ESPN randomly showed Street Fighter, they would say, oh, there's Chun-Li. Oh, this is interesting. This is that. This is similar to the puzzle game, that Street Fighter puzzle game I played. All right, yeah, we'll watch a bit of this. Why not? It happens. That's honestly, it's little things like that. That's how holistic marketing works. So I wish, the franchise of Street Fighter is so rich and so deep. I just wish it was a bigger deal. Or they had the money or the marketing to actually make it a big deal and did smart things with that marketing money and brought people in from the most of unexpected places. And that's also actually what my channel tries to do. I'll be honest with you. My channel is all about Street Fighter in lots of different ways, collectibles and what have you. One of the things I used to say was, let's get the collectors playing and the players collecting. Like, I just wanted the whole thing to get bigger. I still do. I still love Street Fighter. It's in me. Said before, I am Street Fighter.